Good morning everybody, good morning, it's JPR and welcome back to another video. More often than not, the fate of a Pokemon villain is left rather ambiguous. Their goals fail and they generally just vanish. But today, using insights from a variety of different media, we'll be answering what happened to every Pokemon villain. We'll start with the original Giovanni from the Gen 1 games and the remakes Fire Red and Leaf Green, but not Let's Go because Let's Go is weird and happens in another universe where nothing really makes sense. Not being able to handle the embarrassment of losing to an 11-year-old, Giovanni disbands Team Rocket at the end of the Kanto games, even though he loses 3 times throughout the game. I guess the last one was just the breaking point. Pokemon Origins, the animated special from 2013, does shed more light on this development though. And it's revealed that Giovanni has a sudden change of heart during his final battle against Red, remembering that he was once a trainer who battled much like Red does now. He then vows to reform his life and goes into hiding for the next 3 years after one last conversation with his son, Silver. Because he's a good dad who lets his family know when he's leaving forever. And apparently he goes right back to his original goal of world domination in the process. Yeah, as much as I appreciate Pokemon Origins shedding some light on why Giovanni decided to disband Team Rocket in such a melodramatic way in the games, it really does clash with his Heart Gold and Soul Silver appearance where he claims that he'll be hitting the Goldenrod to rejoin the team and rule the world. Following his defeat against Ethan or Lyra in Tojo Falls, he ultimately gives up on this goal again. Dude just has crazy self-confidence issues, I guess. Like, hey dude, it's okay. You lost a battle. You can still go take over the world if you want to. I almost feel bad for him. The final appearance of this incarnation of Giovanni appears in Pokemon Black 2 and White 2 in the Kanto Gym Leader Tournament. He makes no allusions to Team Rocket or his former goals though, merely leaving the player with these words. I'll tell you this now, no matter how strong you are, someday you'll lose. A much more sinister incarnation of Giovanni appears in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, being transported from an alternate universe where he succeeded in taking over the world. This version of Giovanni also draws inspiration from his anime counterpart since he possesses a Mega Evolving Mewtwo. Using the power of the Ultra Wormholes, he summons versions of all other evil team leaders to help him assemble an army of Ultra Beasts that will conquer the entire multiverse. Unlike the original Giovanni though, this version does not give up his goals of world domination following his defeat, continuing to travel the multiverse in search of new worlds to conquer. This is presumably the same Giovanni that later makes his way to Passio in Pokemon Masters. He continues to prove himself as the most cunning and dangerous version of Giovanni by once again manipulating the other team leaders into doing his bidding. Although the villain arc has not yet concluded as of making this video, Giovanni is currently positioning himself for a full-scale takeover of the island. If you thought that was way too complicated for just one person, then I have good news, because Maxie and Archie are pretty straightforward for being 2 different people. Following the climax of the Generation 3 games, Maxie and Archie both realized the error of their ways upon awakening Groudon and Kyogre. They are last seen returning the red and blue orbs to the summit of Mount Pyre in the Gen 3 games. Their stories in the Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire timeline are relatively the same, but they do ultimately call a truce and agree to start over in life. They even begin to treat Brendan and May as friends during the Delta episode, and team up with them with the Battle Maison as well, making them 2 of the few leaders to do a complete 180 afterwards. Even in the alternate timelines of Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon and Pokemon Masters, Archie and Maxie always seem to come to a truce at the end, including the manga, where during a battle between the Weather Trio, Archie and Maxie's bodies run out of energy and then they die and their souls get transported to the Distortion world where they become one with each other, and when they escaped, they came back to life and gained the power of Mega Evolution and stole the orbs away to protect the planet. Guys, I'll be real, I haven't read this far in the manga, I'm just reading this off of Bulbapedia and I'm just as confused as you are. I don't even know what to think of this, so we're just gonna move on. Next up is the Team Galactic boss, Cyrus. In Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, Cyrus simply disappears following his defeat at Spear Pillar, leaving Saturn as the new leader of Team Galactic. His story in the remakes is relatively the same, though he does make another appearance at the Battle Tower because battling for BP is the next logical thing to do after your plan to become God falls flat. It's also revealed here that he is captured in Entei, so he got his legendary, just not the one that he really needed. In Platinum, Cyrus is last seen in the Distortion world, and he leaves claiming that he still wants to create a new world. However, in Pokemon Generations, after Cyrus is kidnapped by Giratina, he actually finds himself rather fond of the peaceful and emotionless Distortion world, telling Saturn not to look for him as he wishes to remain there forever. In the Pokemon Masters timeline, he teams up with Darkrai to engulf himself in a never-ending nightmare since he can no longer create the world he desires. Pack it up, ladies and gents, we have found ourselves the world's biggest introvert. However, he is eventually awoken by the heroes from Sinnoh, much to his displeasure, but realizing that his subordinates still care about him, he ends the nightmare and sets off with his commanders. In the anime, Cyrus's destiny is much different, and he actually succeeds in creating and traveling to his new world. As soon as he crosses through the gate, though, a crazed Dialga and Palkia destroy the portal, leaving his fate unknown. However, in the Arceus Chronicles special in 2022, Team Galactic actually manages to reopen the portal to Cyrus's new world. But they are stopped by Ash's friends and Arceus before they manage to rescue Cyrus. This implies that both Cyrus and the world survived the attack from Dialga and Palkia, but he is presumably still trapped there. Regardless, in both Platinum and the anime, Cyrus kinda gets what he wants, making him one of the few villains to win, at least in his own mind. If you want to be a winner though, why not subscribe to the channel so you can keep up on all things Pokemon? It's free and we're almost at 200k, so every sub counts. For Team Plasma, I'm going to skip over N because I already gave his whole story in another video, including the aftermath from Pokemon Masters, so if you're interested in that, you can go watch that video next. Also, we have two other villains to cover here, Colress and Ghetsis. Colress is an unusual case of a villain who wasn't truly evil, rather he was just using Team Plasma's resources for his own scientific needs. Following the disbandment of Team Plasma, Colress travels to multiple different regions to continue his research. According to a backpacker in X and Y, he visited the graves on Kalos Route 10 to examine the energy emitted by the stones. He then makes a physical appearance later in the Alola region games. In Sun and Moon, he claims to be visiting the region to research the Z-Ring and how it bonds people and Pokemon together. In the Ultra games, his role is expanded to help the Ultra Recon Squad, as he's able to invent the Necrozma Solarizer and Lunarizer using his research on Kyurem to help Necrozma fuse at will. Colress also plays a significant role in the Rainbow Rocket episode, where he assists the player in returning the evil team leaders to their original worlds, though his motivation for doing so seems to simply be his hatred for Ghetsis. As for Ghetsis, his original incarnation suffers a mental breakdown following his defeat to Nate or Rosa at the Giant Chasm. According to the Shadow Triad, he has lost any ambition to threaten the world again. Like the other leaders, a successful version of Ghetsis is summoned in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Believing it's his destiny to liberate the Pokemon of all worlds, he schemes to overthrow Giovanni as the leader of Rainbow Rocket, but once again is foiled by Colress. Ghetsis appears again in Pokemon Masters, where his goals are largely the same as they were in Black 2 and White 2. Ghetsis still operates Team Plasma at full capacity on Pasio, and he and Giovanni are seen as the two main villains struggling for control over the island. His influence in potentially killing Rockruff is also the final straw in Paulo's fall to the dark side, solidifying him as one of, if not the, cruelest villain in Pokemon. In the anime, however, Ghetsis, Colress, and the rest of Team Plasma meet a rather unceremonious ending, as they are the only team leaders to ever be successfully arrested in that canon. His ending in the Adventures manga is not any more noble. With his back against the wall, he attempts to self-destruct the Plasma Frigate, claiming that he'd rather be dead than live as a prisoner. N saves him from the blast because he still loves him as a father. And what happened then? Well, in Unova they say that Ghetsis' heart grew 3 sizes that day. Actually, he just beats N unconscious and then gets arrested anyway. Jeez, the manga is dark! But when it comes to Pokemon's most dangerous villains, you can't talk about Ghetsis without also mentioning Lysandre. In the games, Lysandre seemingly meets his demise after firing the incomplete ultimate weapon during the game's climax. While not the same timeline, the Pokemon Adventures manga elaborates on this event, revealing that Lysandre was not killed by the blast, but he did suffer heavy injuries to his spinal cord, leaving him unable to walk. In the anime, however, Lysandre is presumably killed by, wait for it, Bonnie, who commanded 100% Zygarde to fire a Core Enforcer at Lysandre, completely blowing him to smithereens. When Steven Stone asks where Lysandre went after the blast, Malva simply replies, "Who knows?" Which is the PG way of saying, yeah, that dude's not here anymore. In the Pokemon Masters timeline, after having his plans thwarted once more, he seemingly changes his ways and teams up with Volcanion as he goes into hiding. He ominously says, "I do not plan to monopolize Volcanion's power for my own ideals. But if any foolish human appears and tries to pollute this world with filth, Volcanion and I shall come out of the steam and pass judgment." Ow! The edge! In Pokemon Sun and Moon, following the conclusion of the main story, Guzma returns home to his parents on Melee Island. He then battles the player on the beach, and upon losing, he once again becomes a student of Hala's. In the anime, Guzma and Kukui were both originally Hala's pupils, so this is a nice full circle moment for him. In the Ultra games, Guzma instead helps the player in taking back the Aether Paradise from Team Rainbow Rocket. In Pokemon Masters, Guzma continues to make amends with all the people he wronged in Alola, and in the anime he is a similar conclusion, disbanding Team Skull out of embarrassment after losing to Ash in the semi-finals of the Alola League. As for Alola's other villain, Lusamine, in Sun and Moon she is completely absent from the postgame as she is transported to Kanto to receive treatment from Bill after her fusion with Nihilego. Of course, Bill was also fused with a Pokemon in the past. Apparently it's not good for you. Since this doesn't occur in the Ultra games, however, she instead stays as the president of the Aether Paradise, but she does eventually reunite with her long-lost husband Mon, though she decides to let him continue blissfully living his life at Poképelago. In the anime, Lusamine and her family use Magirna's tracking mechanism to find Mon living in the Crown Tundra with a shiny Nihilego, who he believes is his daughter Lily. After curing him of his amnesia, they succeed in bringing him home to Alola. A remarkably happy ending indeed. Moving on to Galar, for Chairman Rose, his story in the games is quite simple. He gets stopped and turns himself in. Wow, see? It's not that hard! In the Pokemon Journeys anime, although the Darkest Day arc is almost a perfect replica of the game's events, the one core difference is that Chairman Rose and Oleana ultimately escape the scene via helicopter and are never apprehended. They make one last cameo appearance during Ash and Leon's final battle outside of Wyndham Stadium, with Rose wearing his disguise from the games. The manga also plays out relatively the same way, except in this canon, Rose actually does attempt to battle and stop Eternatus after it had already activated the Darkest Day event. So at the very least, he appears to have some level of concern about releasing a massive legendary into the wild, which isn't saying much, but it is an improvement. And for our last villain of the video, since the Paldea region doesn't really have much in terms of a true villain, also you could just play the games yourself, we have Volo. Yeah, he disappears and never shows up in the anime, manga, or Masters. So, that's about it. But hey, thanks for watching today's video, I really appreciate it. I would also really appreciate a like and a sub on this video. As I said before, we're really close to 200k, so it'd be awesome to hit it soon. And as always, thanks to my wonderful channel members. I'll see you guys next time.